Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank you gentlemen for not only your testimony today, but your decades of public service, which I happen to have had the opportunity to witness for a number of years, so it really has been exceptional. So I just want to commend you for that, and your families, by the way. I think, would you agree that one of the most strategically important advantages we have right now as the United States, and have had for really generations, is that we're an ally-rich nation, and our adversaries or potential adversaries, Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, are ally poor? Would you agree that that's a key strategic advantage the United States has?
Absolutely. I think it's among our greatest advantages and has been for decades.
So you look at, like I mentioned, the Russians, the Chinese, the North Koreans, the Iranians. Nobody wants to be on their team. Nobody's clamoring to be part of the... As a matter of fact, they all look to be alliances with themselves just because they have so few other countries that are interested in actually teaming up with them. So is it also true that Russia, I know is the focus of this hearing, but also China, see as one of their goals is to undermine these alliances, split us apart from our key long-term allies?
Absolutely.
So I know it's early days in the Trump administration. I think we have a lot of cabinet members who understand this, but what do you think the Trump administration is doing right to strengthen alliances and push back on Russian attempts to undermine them, and where can they improve? And I'll open that up for all three of you, gentlemen.
Well, Senator, first I would agree that we are very much advantaged by having networks of alliances in Europe and in other parts of the world. And the Russians in particular seem to alienate their neighbors. The only way they feel they can keep their neighbors under control is by keeping them weak and unstable. And, and so that means in the long term, it's a very unsustainable way to build relationships. So I think we have a natural advantage, and we shouldn't psych ourselves out. But it's a little early to make
it's very early. I get
broad
it.
Judgments about the new administration. But I think they've after some question marks that were raised about whether NATO is obsolete in the mind of President Trump, they have, I think, reassured allies that they still value NATO, value the transatlantic relationship, recognize that allies are contributing in Afghanistan and other operations. But I think the jury's still out as to what kind of agenda will the Trump administration lay out for NATO. Where does it want NATO to evolve and take on new missions, new roles? I think there is more we could ask our allies to do through NATO, not just spending more money, but doing more things to deal with the root causes of terrorism, of migration. So I look forward to what that agenda is. I think we've seen also reassuring messages to our East Asian allies. The Mattis trip, now the Tillerson trip, I think have been very clear that those alliances with Korea and Japan will remain high priorities. So that's also good news.
Thank you, Ambassador. Any other, General Breedlove, Ambassador Burns, what they can be doing better, what they're doing well now? It's a really important issue, right? It's the key strategic issue. We have this great advantage. We need to double down on it, not undermine it ourselves.
We do, and I think the honest answer is there's a lot of uncertainty right now on the part of our allies, notwithstanding the efforts of a number of the new cabinet principals to emphasize the U.S. commitment, but there's uncertainty given things that were said during the campaign by President Trump and some of the signals coming out of the White House since then. And it's really important, I think, to reassure our allies and partners. There's some good opportunities in the next few months with meetings in Europe.
We can do that as well here, right? The U.S. Senate.
Absolutely. And I think the more that can be done, like at the Munich Security Conference and other places, the better.
Let me ask another question, switching gears here on the Arctic. General Breedlove, you are very aware and watched as the Russians engage in this massive military buildup in the Arctic. Many of us, I think, on a bipartisan way on this committee, certainly were concerned that we didn't have a strategy. We put in a provision in the NDAA 2 years ago to actually have a strategy. It was a little better than the lack of one that we previously had. We really didn't have one. General Mattis, in his confirmation hearing, has talked about the Arctic being key strategic terrain, sea lanes, resources, and that Russia's aggressively taking action. In the new strategy, it talks about the importance of protecting sea lanes, resources through freedom of navigation operations, kind of like we've done in the South China Sea, although not nearly enough. General Breedlove, can you comment on this, and more specifically, if Russia decided to not deny access to vital U.S. resources in the region or international sea lanes, shipping lanes in the Arctic, do we have any capability whatsoever to conduct a surface fawn-up to challenge that? And what should we be doing about that?
Senator, thank you. I understand the question. Let me just reframe a minute. We ought to try to make the Arctic an opportunity. We're early in this conversation. We ought to make it an opportunity and not a place of competition. But we need to, with a very wary eye, look at the actions that you have mentioned that Russia is taking in the north. And our abilities, as are other nations, and frankly, Russia's abilities to operate in the north are still challenging. This is a tough place to be. But what we do see is a Russia moving out to establish capability there that could be used appropriately or nefariously. I believe this, and I have spoken before, that we need to look at our capabilities. Are they deep? Do we have the right ones? And I think there's work to be done there.
Can we conduct a fawn up there? Isn't the answer no? It's not even close.
Exactly, I understand. I think we can, but realizing that we would have to be there at the right time of the year and the right time of conditions. We don't have some of the capabilities we need to operate up there when the ice is challenging.
Thank you.